The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the producers and the individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff of the Sun Prairie Media Center, its members or underwriters, the board members of the Media Center Commission, Charter Communications, TDS Telecom, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hello and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jamison Rabbit. The man seated next to me has never stubbed his toe. His name is Mike Roth.
I stubbed the arch of my foot, or the other side where
You
all
walk
those
like
weird...
Goofy? What?
Yeah, it's kind of like this.
I gotta watch you walk a little more. Let me put you on the runway and see how this works.
If you notice, in every episode I'm sitting.
You are.
Yeah.
That's very good. You're sneaky with that.
Sneaky. Well,
Man.
it's all with the hands. If you distract them with the hands, they don't
No one
notice
looks
that
at the feet.
you're walking like that.
You get me every week. Okay, this week, sir, we have a few movies on the marquee as well as a really interesting throwback movie. And I'm going to get us started with the first film, a film called Beautifully Broken from director Eric Welch. This movie is a film that is really focused on three fathers who are trying to, in their own ways, they're struggling to be there for their families, for their kids. It starts with the early days of the Rwandan Civil War, and we see some of the atrocities that happen there. But it opens with a super hokey music montage and the Rwandan Civil War. It's a weird mix right off the get-go. You have a man named William, played by Benjamin Onyango, who is a father who is trying to help his family as wars broken out everywhere. He goes to America in hopes of being able to bring his family over. And so he's dealing with this separation and being in a new world that he doesn't quite fully understand. You also have the idyllic white affluent family led by Scott William Winters, who has a daughter who is beginning to rebel, and he doesn't know how to handle that other than with anger. And then there's another father who is in Rwanda who has been snatched up by rebel guerrillas and made to fight in the Civil War, and he has left his family behind. And surprise, surprise, his daughter is pen pals with the white girl back in America. So it all ties together at some point. There's a lot of heavy-handed moments in here, but it really, the acting and the action are very reminiscent of a Rescue 911 reenactment. Like one of those, it's that kind of acting style. It's pretty bad. The movie.
You had the guy from Mayhem. He was Mayhem.
Mayhem
right?
is the father. Yes, exactly. And unfortunately, it's supposed to be a movie about three fathers in very different situations and how they handle it and how one turns to faith and how faith plays into all this. But the father who is kind of grabbed to go fight in the guerrilla army, his story is really kind of just left to the side for the majority of the movie. We're just kind of dealing with the two guys living in America.
Because, the other guy has problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't really deal with him and his family very much. He just kind of, oh yeah, by the way, he's still out there. Everything in this movie is telegraphed. Everything is telegraphed. You can see everything coming 20 minutes ahead of time, at least. The shift in the family dynamics and just what's going to happen. And it's just, it feels like a kind of bad after-school special. Now, the one guy, William, who is the refugee coming over from Rwanda, his storyline is actually really good. It actually had me interested. He was a really good actor. And his story of his family and the trouble of getting them over here and the roadblocks that they had was actually an interesting story. I would have preferred to just watch a movie about that and just cut out all the other crap around it. But the movie itself was not very good.
So Mayhem is not going to really make a breakout of his
I think it's a little late for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate when you're known for what you're known for. It's like, I was in that commercial. I mean, I remember him in the TV show Oz years ago. It's like, oh yeah, you remember him? He was like the fresh fish in Oz, but best known as Mayhem. That's not great.
No.
And this is not going to help your career.
You're several 30 seconds of shame. Fame. Sorry.
Yeah,
not
no,
shame.
you were right. That's a Freudian slip, absolutely. So ultimately, I end up giving Beautifully Broken 1.5 out of 5 stars. It's yeah.
Sorry.
It is what it is. Anyways, what's the next movie we have, sir?
Well, much improvement.
Yes.
We have a film produced by the same people who did The Muppets.
Oh, good.
Brian Henson. He directs this movie.
Jim Henson's son.
It's called Happytime Murders. What we're doing is we're taking the Muppets and we're going to make them a little blue.
They're all blue, aren't they?
No, not in that sense. No, we're going to just make them filthy. So Melissa McCarthy, she plays this detective, Connie, who is probably, while watching this movie, is one of the worst detectives ever. But in this world, she's a great detective. And her partner used to be this Muppet who had an incident a long time ago that caused him to lose his job because there's a lot of racism about puppets.
Yeah.
And he becomes a private eye. And just like any noir film, the private eye, he's calm, he knows what he's doing, probably drunk half the time.
Right.
A lot of sordid things come through his office. He does a lot of dirty jobs.
Is he seduced by a
exactly
widow?
like in a very stereotyped noir film? Yes, it happens right away. And I had a date that whispers next to me. She goes, she's the murderer. It's like the movie just started, but yes, it's that predictable. So they get together to start solving a case where all these Muppets that used to be on this one television show.
What was the television show? It's in the title.
Happytime.
Happytime.
Yeah.
It is the Happytime Murders.
And each character starts dying off, and these two work together to try to figure it out. And some of the detective work, I mean, yes, this whole movie is about what we used to love as kids are now really dirty and filthy, and they do a lot of drugs and prostitute and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a story besides that, and that story is not good either. We have Detective Connie, who is like supposed to be really smart, one of the top detectives in this whole department. They walk into a scene where there's obvious a murder, and she's just like, oh, I already got it solved. It was just a simple cash and grab, but nothing was stolen, including the cash. And it's like, I've seen this in bad detective movies before, and now you're doing it again. Any good detective that has been on the force longer than that first day should know things like that. And
it feels like they let one of the puppets write the script.
They did. I think what happened was Jim Henson's son just went, you know what? I'm going to take this Muppet thing and I'm going to turn it on the head and just like give the people what they want. But this is not what the people want. People loved the Muppets in the beginning because it was designed for children, but also was designed for adults too. Yeah. Adults could watch it, and it was smart comedy. This was not.
No, nothing.
There's nothing smart about this at all. Not the story, not the humor.
I thought it was like when the movie first began and they introduced really early that, the puppets are second-class citizens.
Yeah.
And there's definite racism against puppets in this society.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, all right. Let's see what you're going to do with this.
Yeah.
Nothing. We're gonna just throw some bodily fluids on that joke.
Yeah.
And then also with the Happytime show, it was this big show that was big back in the day, and it was all puppets with one human played by Elizabeth Banks. And you have Phil Phillips, who's our detective.
Yeah.
His brother, who was like the star of that show, this puppet who, he's your prototypical guy who was like, I was a child star back in the day. And now he's lightening his skin and getting a new nose attached to him, like trying to be more human-like. Oh, it's kind of interesting,
Yeah.
And then we got nothing to do with that either. It's just, the problem with it is it's boring for the most part.
Yeah.
This movie was kind of boring, and they want to be crass, and they throw that at you right away. Unfortunately, most of the really crass scenes were in the trailers.
Yeah.
So you already know going in, like, okay, I'm going to see this, and this. These are going to be horribly offensive if you love puppets. And, you know.
They advertised it like they wanted to be Sausage Fest, but they weren't.
Yeah, yes.
But they weren't as dirty as that. Yet the story wasn't even better either. And I was just really disappointed about that both of them weren't even working.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, since I saw this movie, my opinion on it has kind of I've gone like all over the place with it. Because I thought it was really boring, for the most part. And I thought there were interesting things that they could have done with, like they introduced like puppet poachers. I thought that was kind of interesting, like, oh man, people are poaching puppets for their feet? Like, that's crazy, and then that's just kind of brushed aside.
And I like the whole human getting an organ transplant
Yeah,
from
yeah.
a Muppet. I thought that was an interesting idea. They did one thing with it, and that was just a.
And that was a problem. Is it felt like they were just reliant on sex, vulgarity, and puppets. Like, that's what we got. But I'm also a sucker for anything of a noir type feel.
Same
like
here.
I just am, and I actually really like. I found myself actually really liking the Phil Phillips puppet.
Yep.
I kind of dug him. Like, I forgot he was a puppet after a while. Like, yeah, this guy's kind of cool. He's kind of the old Bogart replacement that I always loved.
He was actually more normal than Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, you're right.
And unfortunately, I thought it was actually a shame that you had this dynamic where you had two partners, but one partner was horribly flawed, and that was the human who stayed on the force. There was no equal, hey, we both make mistakes. It was Melissa McCarthy always making, or Detective Connie always making the mistakes, while Phil Phillips was the smart guy for the whole thing. And I thought it would have been more interesting if they were equals instead of.
Yeah. And it's just, the human characters. You have Maya Rudolph in there as his receptionist, just kind of playing the typical ditzy. I mean, her name is Bubbles, of course. Joel McHale is just kind of a detective who has it out for puppets, I guess. Like, none of the characters are flushed out.
No.
I don't know. Like, I'm a sucker for puppet movies and Muppet movies specifically. You really have to try to make me not care for it.
I think they were trying this time.
Think so?
Yeah, I think so. They really didn't put any heart in any of these puppets. I mean, Phil Phillips was a good character. He was very one-dimensional and a stereotype of noir films. This whole movie, how the script is written, is actually a stereotype of noir films too.
Oh, very much.
So you're not getting anything new, and I love the noir feel, but do something different with it. And I keep bringing it up. The movie with all the animals, and I'm blanking. Disney. Rabbit, Fox, help me out.
Peter Rabbit?
Zootopia.
Zootopia, got it. Okay.
Thanks for helping me.
Right.
Zootopia is definitely a noir film, but they did not advertise it as such, and they made it unique.
Yeah.
Where this one, it was just taking all the
Lazy.
tropes. But sorry. I just feel bad that you took something like that.
It was, I'll tell you what, it was shocking the first time I saw a puppet get its head blown off.
Did you feel something?
Yeah, I was like, I've never imagined what that would be like.
And another thing that was bugging me too is they showed all this extreme violence and gore in puppet world, but in human world, you could go into a strip club and no one loses their top.
Sure.
And I was like, what are you trying to do with your movie? Is this supposed to be vulgar or what? I don't know. I don't know what you're doing.
It's weird. I'm curious because this movie is getting really trashed, resoundingly trashed by critics. It didn't do well at the box office.
No.
Crazy Rich Asians really destroyed it in its second week at the box office. I'm really curious because the Henson family just got the property back within the family in recent years.
Yeah.
They let it go, and Brian Henson especially kind of spearheaded getting it back in the family, and this was kind of like his big thing. And I'm really curious to see where we're going from here.
Yeah, this is
what is this a new turn? Like, you're trying to be super edgy, and it failed. What are we doing next?
Well, it looks like he made an entire production company around this
Yeah,
type
there was a name for it that was
Aha or something like that.
Yeah, it was something. Yeah, it felt like this is the edgy Muppets.
Yeah, but it's not edgy. It's just dirty.
Yeah,
there's a difference.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Very unfortunate.
There's so many good Muppet movies to watch. This is not being one of them.
Yeah.
What did you end up giving the Happytime Murders?
Well, I gave it a 1.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of forgot for a while. For everybody out there, I don't have my notes.
Yeah, my score was kind of in flux, and it still is. I gave it a 2. I'm not real comfortable with it, but it's a 2. More just for, I think, some of the Muppets. There were some laughs. I had some laughs.
I did too.
When Phil Phillips was just getting punched, he's like, this is doing nothing to me. I got no bones, right?
Yeah. There's a couple of clever things that I think they were just doing for Muppets, and you could only do with Muppets, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah,
and those were the highlights, really, and they did nothing with them.
Yeah, unfortunate. The next movie we have on the marquee is a movie called A.X.L. It stars a man named Alex Newstander as Miles. Miles is a motocross racer. He's an outsider. He's a kid with a poor me attitude. His father, played by Thomas Jane, is trying to help him figure out life as he grows up. And he comes across, kind of in a crate, he comes across this militarized robot canine that the government has made to help protect soldiers. And this is a $70 million killer robot that the government has lost.
This thing looks exactly like how they thought killer robots looked like in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Miles is able to very easily kind of pair himself with this killer robot dog, and suddenly they become the best of friends. And he helps fix it up, and they start to learn about each other. And he does some great motorcycle jumps, and the dog uses its rocket thrusters to mimic it. He also has a girl who is actually kind of dating his rival, and then she starts to have a crush on him because he's got the robot dog. None of that made sense.
No.
None of this made sense to me. And the movie really, to me, felt like a mix between, remember that classic great movie, Monster Trucks from last year? The kid that had the monster that ran as the engine?
The one they postponed for an entire year and released it
felt like
in
a mix
January?
of Monster Trucks and Short Circuit to me, where you have a robot that disappeared, the government's coming after it, but he's my friend, I don't want to give him up. Only Johnny Five was way cooler than this stupid dog.
It seems like we get at least 2 of these type of movies.
We've had 2 of these in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Alpha was just last week.
But Alpha was actually good. It looked creative, and this one looks like they're robbing a bunch of other B movies.
It's really dumb. It's such a whiny teen drama, too. Like, it's really the worst of teen dramas, and you know where this is going. And there's a kid with a flamethrower who tries to, Miles' rival kid, who's the rich kid, the rich motocross racer. Why, he tries to burn that dog down with a flamethrower. What a jerk.
Rich jerks.
Got himself. It's just, the movie fizzles out so quickly, and it becomes the government coming after him, and him and A.X.L have to try and get away so the government doesn't take rightfully their property back.
Yeah. Well, in a
There's
way, it's the
$70
government's
million
fault, because every time they make a robot that they lose that kid's fine, they put some kind of emotion chip in it where it becomes best friends. My toaster is not bonded to me at all.
He finds
no
it,
emotion
and within
chips.
3 minutes of finding it, he's already found the code basically to make it its best friend.
Yeah, that's
this
weird.
Killing robot. What happens when the enemy finds the dog?
Well, apparently,
hey, buddy.
Don't ship the dog to your enemy with a crate, and they won't get the code.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
This movie was just so predictable and blah. And it was funny because I was in the theater by myself for the majority of the movie.
Yeah.
Just kind of there trying to stay awake. And then somebody came in halfway through the movie, less than half movie left in the movie, came walking in, sat down, and seemed to enjoy themselves for the final 40 minutes of the
Really?
movie.
Must have been an employee.
I wanted to sit and chat with him afterwards. Like, what's going on here? What are we doing?
You just know the beginnings are
I guess
bad.
to their benefit, you don't need to see the beginning to know what's going on.
Sure.
You can walk in at any moment and be like, oh, I've seen this.
Just looking at the preview, I felt like I've seen this movie, and I'm good.
And it's not good.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
So anyways, I remember what I gave this thing. Did I give it 1 star? Did I give it 1.5 stars? 1.5 stars.
it's so bad, we're not even going to
Feeling
remember
generous.
the score.
It's 1.5 stars for A.X.L. Pass on that one. If you need to see A Boy and His Dog, go watch Alpha, which we reviewed last week. Much better.
Mountain Dew should have sponsored this movie.
They might
I
have.
think it would have been really cool.
They should have sponsored me watching it. It would have kept me awake a little bit more. Anyways, all that is to bring us to our throwback movie this week, sir. And we decided to throw back off of the Happytime Murders,
Yeah.
really, to another movie. This one by the older Henson, Mr. Jim Henson.
The more knowledgeable, better at his job, Henson.
Absolutely. So we decided to throw back to 1982, the movie The Dark Crystal. Jim Henson actually starred in this movie. He did the voice for Jen.
Really?
Yep. And you also had Catherine Mullen as Kira. They are two gelflings who are out on a quest to find a missing shard of a magic crystal and try and restore order. Of course, you have the great Frank Oz doing about 15 voices in this movie. You know, he was the all-time collaborator.
Did he do the...
Probably. It's a weird movie. So I haven't seen this movie since 1982. I saw it in the theaters in 82.
Okay.
And I haven't watched it since. And I remember being terrified of it when I was a kid.
Yeah, it is.
And I was terrified of it now. 41 years old, I watched it, and I realized something. That I think that this movie, paired with a couple of other events in my childhood, is what gave me my debilitating fear of birds. Because those Skeksis still get my pulse racing when I see them on screen.
They're horrifying.
They really are.
And they're what they wear, it doesn't really help their looks at all.
No.
It makes them even more horrifying. A naked one looks better than the well-dressed
There's a lot of horrifying things in this movie.
Yeah, and it's a very
Really
complex plot,
dark.
too. This is supposed to be a kid's film, and you have a lot of things going on where every 1,000 years a sun, and then you have two separate beings which are kind of the same beings. It's just really complex
A lot of
plot.
stuff going on, but really gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous movie. The design of the characters, the design of everything, the execution of it. It's like some of the best of Jim Henson.
It is probably one of his most creative.
Yes. It's like a fantasy book that came to life.
Yeah.
Like what you would imagine in your head. It's right there, and just it's crazy.
Actually, I think he did better because little things like that fuzzbug or bizwiz or whatever is it's all it is a truffle with teeth. And when it opens up your mouth, you might expect a me, but it's just it's just the way it sounds is just it's beyond what my imagination could do.
It's great to see a movie like this with it's all practical effects.
Yeah. It's
all done with strings and and felt. And it's dark and kind of foreboding and kind of scary. I'm uncomfortable watching this movie. Like, I appreciate, and I recognize that it's great, but I struggle with watching this movie. Like, even now, I was watching it, and it took me a couple of sittings to get through it because, I don't know, there's something about it. It stirs something in me where I'm like, I can't feel uncomfortable watching this.
There's some scenes where I think if they did them now, they would have gone with CG. Definitely.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Like that rock scene when they're like trial by stone, and they come out with swords and they beat a stone with swords. I was thinking, that's actually anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Very anticlimactic. If you had CG and your puppets could have done more, they probably would have done an actual battle instead of beating swords on a stone.
I'm really curious to see how they handle that because we have Netflix. There's going to be a series. It's actually a prequel to this called The Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance. And it's kind of been getting pushed back, and it's probably a lot of work to make something like this happen, but it is coming eventually. And I'm really curious to see how they handle it. If they try and be faithful to this in this style, or if they do use some CGI, and what the look of it is.
I think what would be most important.
Brian Henson is not working on it.
No,
he
better not be. I think if they wanted to do a good job, they have to realize that this is an cult film that a lot of people follow.
Oh yeah.
Even people who weren't even born in '82 watch this movie because they love the fantasy and the creativity in this whole world. So they got to be more faithful, I think, to the world than faithful to using the puppets.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point.
At least that's my point of view.
Oh, very good. So yeah, I mean, Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
Pretty good flick.
I like it.
I dug it.
if you ever want to borrow it, I got it on
I'm
Blu-ray.
good. I went 36 years between watchings.
I'll ask you again in 30 more years.
I'll be waiting for you. Let's take a look ahead at what we have coming out the week of September 7th. We're going to have 3 films coming out that weekend. The first one is called God Bless the Broken Road. This is your next faith-based film from the filmmakers who brought you the God's Not Dead series, which are some terrible movies.
Yeah, well, we'll rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, I know.
Win.
The next movie, very much the opposite end of that spectrum. We have The Nun.
Yeah, totally.
Another spin-off of the Conjuring series.
Mm-hmm.
This trailer, every time I see it, it gets me.
Really?
Every time. I
That
know
end
it's
scene?
happening. Yes, I know it's coming.
They did
and
a really
it's
good job.
still, I'm like, duh, I don't like how I feel.
They did a fantastic job with the timing, and actually everybody who did the Conjuring series and Insidious series, they do a great job at timing their jump scares.
Yeah. This one looks terrifying.
Yeah. I'm ready.
It makes me uneasy to watch, and I kind of like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Looking forward to that. And I'm just waiting for a good movie. Because, look, this week is nothing but ones and a halves.
Yeah.
It's been a rough couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to something that actually gives me something to talk about.
And there's another movie that's actually pretty bad.
Well, we have
week,
another one.
isn't
The final movie coming out the weekend of September 7th is Peppermint, starring Jennifer Garner as a mom whose child is murdered. And she goes away and does some training, and she comes back 5 years later, ready to seek revenge on the people who killed her daughter.
I've seen this.
It's every Steven Seagal movie.
Yeah.
You killed my daughter. Now you must pay. Let me clip on my ponytail and put on a kimono. It's time to do battle.
Well, he's Russian now, so he can't.
He's everything. Sometimes he's Native American. He's great.
He's great.
He is like our ambassador to Russia. We got Dennis Rodman going to North Korea. What are we doing, guys?
We're getting rid of the people we don't want.
My goodness. So those are the movies that we'll be talking about the weekend of September 7th. Before we leave you, and before I leave you, sir, we have to thank our sponsor, the Palace here in Sun Prairie, Marcus Theaters. Thank you for sponsoring this program. We do appreciate it. Mike loves a Dream Lounger.
Love Dream Loungers. Love the pickle chips. Love their French fries. Their French fries are fantastic. I know everybody thinks everybody's French fries are the same, but Marcus Theaters French fries, they have a hint of garlic salt or something like that. And I know it just sounds lame, but they are my favorite fries in town. They really are, hands down.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I like to sit in the Take 5 lounge myself.
Yeah?
Have a couple of beverages, watch some football.
Monday nights they do a movie trivia.
Yeah,
and I think you and me should go do that.
Should we do it?
Because we've never done it, and I'm pretty sure we could just wipe.
Run shop on those fools.
Exactly. Just show up once, win, and never come back.
Yeah. The legends, they just talk about us.
There was these two guys.
They came in, they killed it. One guy had a crazy laugh.
The other one wore Spurs just because he had them.
Just wearing Spurs for no reason. It's a good look, actually. Saw a guy at Target doing that the other day.
Oh,
and I
no.
watched him go out and get into his Honda Civic. What are you doing wearing Spurs? You're driving a Honda Civic.
Woo!
That's ridiculous. If you want to find more from us, you can find us online. You can go to Facebook or to Twitter. Find at Real Reviews TV. You can also find our program on the YouTube. If you search Real Reviews, KSUN, K-Sun. You can also find us at our parent channel, sunprairiemediacenter.com. There's an on-demand player there, as you can find 127 episodes of this very show. You can listen to us on the radio. You can pen pal with Mike. I'll give you his address. All you have to do is email into the show.
There's one thing I wanted to mention before
Yes.
the show is done. Yeah, we're coming across the hard months of really bad
Yes.
movies. But Marcus Theaters, they also play a bunch of retro movies and
I
stuff
see
like that.
Jaws and
Yep,
Goonies are playing.
Yep. So, I mean, yeah, the other movies we're reviewing, not stellar, but they have great movies. And you should go there and check them out. They change weekly
It's
of
good
all
stuff.
these great movies.
Absolutely. Good point. Next week, sir, we have films such as Operation Finale. We have a film called Kin. We also have a film called Searching. I'm actually really looking forward to this Operation Finale. If nothing else, it's got an interesting cast. It's got, as you pointed out last week, Sir Ben Kingsley in it.
Yep. I don't like the found footage type feel, but this one looks interesting, and it's getting good reviews. I'm hoping it's not like all the other ones that I watch and go, oh, you told me it was good and it wasn't. That's
We're hunting Nazis. That's always a fun time.
That's fun. That's a good
It's
time.
tough to screw up hunting Nazis
Yeah,
down.
it's like one of the few things that people kill and everybody's like, yay!
Kill more Nazis. All right. Well, until we meet again, I'm Jamison.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.